Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to present House Committee Substitute for House Bills 133 and 583. For the record, my name is Brad Hudson, State Representative District 138. This particular piece of legislation passed out of the Missouri House by a bipartisan 110 yes, 39 no, and 2 present vote. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, it is my understanding that you have heard this issue before, so I'm going to spare you the entire presentation that I gave the Speaker's Committee on Committee on Economic Development on the other side of the building. I'll just hit some of the highlights, and then if you have any questions for me, you are welcome to ask them. This bill would create incentives for concert rehearsal in the state of Missouri. It's the Entertainment Industry Jobs Act. Some of the requirements that have to be met, there has to be purchase or rental of concert tour equipment and related services from Missouri vendors in amount of at least $1 million. There has to be rehearsal at a qualified Missouri rehearsal facility for a minimum of 10 days, and there has to be the holding of at least 2 concerts in Missouri. The required concerts must be ticketed live performances for at least 1,000 individuals. The qualified rehearsal facility must have an investment of at least $8 million and have at least 80 facility full-time equivalent employees. That's 80 full-time Missouri jobs. And one thing I like about this particular piece of legislation is the Act contains a special sunset provision. The Act will sunset within 90 days of other political subdivisions discontinuing their similar incentive programs. I'm pleased to have had the opportunity to work on this piece of legislation, and the folks that I've been working with are just looking for a level playing field, and I would like the opportunity for us to give them that. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions for the bill sponsor? This, as Representative Hudson mentioned, this is very similar to bills we've already heard in the Senate committee from Senator Beck and myself. Any questions? Seeing none. First up to testify in favor of House Bills 133 and 583. Proceed when ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is John Barget. I'm a registered lobbyist appearing on behalf of Gateway Studios and Production Services, and I too will spare you the lengthy presentation that I've done for you before. A couple of things I wanted to point out to you. I think you all recall from previous testimony on Senator Beck and Senator Hoskins' bill. This situation is one where 4 other states are offering this incentive. We provided the committee with dozens of letters from promoters around the nation. You've gotten those in your offices. We provided those to you, indicating that Missouri would be a preferred place to come and do their rehearsals, particularly as a result of our location. I did want to show you just, here's a before and after. This facility is in the Chesterfield Valley. These walls are now even higher. This is a before and after this is being completed. It will be the world's largest rehearsal studio. In order for the $8 million cap to be reached in Missouri for this tax credit, which goes to the artist, not to my client, $26.7 million would have to be spent with Missouri music vendors. 2 concerts would have to be held in the state by the performing artist, and the facility at which they practice will have had to create 80 new full-time jobs. Just as a reminder of how Missouri can really win this battle is the map that I've shown you before. And when you talk about concert promoters wanting to begin their tours from a central location because of the 10-hour commercial driver's license law, you can see how many different markets can be reached from Missouri and from, as opposed to Pennsylvania or Georgia. I think the location certainly is what we're talking about here. We've also previously provided you with some information about Pennsylvania, which is directly who we're competing with. You may remember the community formerly known as Lidditz, Pennsylvania, now known as Rock Lidditz, built one of these facilities. According to Pennsylvania Department of Economic Development, I hope I got that right, the name of it, they had anticipated that they might get 10 companies. They got 40 new companies. They anticipated about 800 jobs. They got 1,500 jobs. We also provided you with information, letters from the major tour management companies indicating how much they wanted to come to Missouri, and I'm happy to provide you with any other information on this. We appreciate your support. And that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up to testify in favor. While we're doing, you can come on up while we're doing that. We'll go ahead and take roll. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Hoskins.
Here.
Esslinger. Beck. Here. Eigel. Here. Biswater. Here. Huff. Roberts. We have 4 present, 3 absent.
We do have 4 present and 3 absent, so we do have a quorum. Proceed when ready.
Thanks for having me again. I'm Trey Kerr. I'm the CEO of Gateway Studios and Production Services. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senators. Like Representative Hudson said and Mr. Barget said, you've obviously heard all this before and heard from me before, so I'll keep it brief. But a couple of points I want to touch upon, which would be, you know, I'm from Missouri, and much like a lot of people, I had to leave in order to pursue my career. I'm fortunate enough to be able to come back to the state of Missouri and live my dreams here and work in my field here, and bring these, with my colleagues, bring this studio and our company to Missouri. There's lots of new people. There is lots of people that have had to leave the state of Missouri and have not had the opportunity to move back here. And there's people every day that are strong workforce people that want to come back to Missouri and work in this industry. We don't have this industry in Missouri currently. It's new industry. It's new jobs that aren't in Missouri. And this legislation will be very much paramount to that. John spoke to Rock Lidditz and what's gone on there. We very much look to mirror that legislation that's going on in Pennsylvania, and I know that we've added plenty of, Senator Beck and Hoskins and Representative Hudson have all spent a lot of time altering and making the legislation even better, and making it more better for the state of Missouri and the sunset clauses. And if for any reason those other states were to get rid of their legislation, we would also get rid of ours. We're just looking to compete on a level playing field. We're not looking to get a leg up on the competition. We just want to be able to compete with them. So the big thing that I wanted to point out today is as this legislation has continued to progress, people are paying attention, and we have many clients that are very much interested in what's going on. And if this legislation does pass, I feel that and know that this legislation will be very successful, and they will utilize the legislation. That's 2 concerts per artist in the state of Missouri, which is huge. That wouldn't otherwise be happening. And again, you know, whether that's St. Louis, Columbia, Kansas City, Branson, we have great relationships all over this state with many venues and other people who are in our industry, such as Thunder Ridge and Branson, for example. So anyway, that's the gist of added information that I can bring to this, and thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you. Any questions for this witness? Senator Beck.
Yeah, real quick. We can see this facility going up from Highway 40, isn't that not correct?
That is correct. If you're
Yeah.
driving 64 westbound,
And I sent pictures of Senator Hoskins a while back, but it's progressed even further than that. But I wanted to point out that the steel in that building is like something. It's very extra heavy. It looks like something you would see in a powerhouse, because it's not in your normal buildings. Doesn't have that amount of steel in it.
correct. It is a significant amount of steel workers, and a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of jobs that have come in and worked on that and are continuing to work on it.
What I'm getting at is that building is unique to what you're going to be able to do, to be able to set up stage shows and all those things, and
Absolutely.
the capacity to be able to hold all that weight.
Correct,
is
correct.
why they're so big. Well, I appreciate that. So when I talk to people, I'm excited about this project, but also I can see it as I drive in back and forth from here far too many times, but I can see that building going up, and it's great to see, and I can't wait for this to happen.
And I know it's a stone's throw from Senator Eigel's backyard. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so we're really excited with where we're at, and you know, there are plenty of phases on top of that we look to.
But just being a construction worker, seeing something actually being built, to me, shows the progress and what can be done as we go forward, hopefully with this bill. Hopefully everything it goes through and creates a new industry that we currently don't have.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Thank
It's
you.
the show me state, so we're trying to show that we're committed to putting the infrastructure into the state of Missouri. So.
Any further questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
As always, thank you.
Next up to testify in favor of House Bills 133 and 583.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kaina Iman on behalf of Missouri Citizens for the Arts. We support this legislation. We think it will bring a lot of quality jobs to the area, and then we like the provision that requires the 2 concerts because, as you know, the Missouri Arts Council gets their funding from the non-resident professional athlete and entertainers tax. So that will help boost that funding for that program as well. So happy to support, answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Next up, testify in favor.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Will Mars on behalf of the Branson Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce. Also just want to go on record in support of this bill. This would be great for the Branson area. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, testify in favor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Philip Arnzen with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We'd like to go on the record in support. This would be a good economic development project, bringing many jobs to the state, as well as increasing our exposure to folks that may not normally come to Missouri.
Thank you, Philip. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, testify in favor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ray McCarty, Associated Industries of Missouri, also want to go on record in support of this as we did the other bills.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else here to testify in favor? Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition of House Bills 133 and 583? Proceed when ready. Mr. Cady.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee. My name is Jeremy Cady, State Director for Americans for Prosperity. Just want to go on record in case anyone wondered if we had changed our mind on this. But just want to go on record in opposition to House Bill 133. We went through a lot of this before, so I'm not going to take any more of your time either. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up, testify in opposition of House Bills 133 and 583. Seeing none, anyone here to testify for informational purposes only for House Bills 133 and 583? Seeing none, Representative, do you have any final concluding remarks? Thank you, Representative. That concludes the hearing on House Committee Substitute for House Bills 133 and 583. Next up is Senate Bill 513. Looks like we have one choice to chair the committee.
I'm always the last resort,
I know.
Mr. Chairman. So I'll do the best I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two members of the committee. For the record, State Senator Denny Hoskins, representing the 21st Senatorial District, here today to present the Senate Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 513 relating to taxation. So the original bill, 513, deals with boat docks. So the Department of Revenue, and I've been working on a solution for this, as well as some marinas that brought this to my attention. They are attempting to eliminate the confusion surrounding the imposition of sales tax on the rental of boat docks. They've seen the situation on multiple occasions through sales tax audits. The business communities that construct or rent boat docks have expressed frustration about this situation, especially in terms of the inconsistency in what is subject to tax for items that would normally be thought of as real property. That's where we're seeing the confusion, because depending on county to county, some of them view boat docks as real property, some of them view as personal property, and so on. This proposal would alleviate the concern of boat dock owners from being audited and receiving findings that they did not properly collect tax on the rental of the boat dock. This will also allow boat dock owners to have a consistent rental operation of all of their boat docks. And then in the Senate Committee substitute, we also added in Senate Bill 588, regarding beginning farmers. This is an issue that I've worked on years in the past, and so since it has not been referred to committee, we decided to create a Senate Committee substitute with it in there. And so the beginning farmer portion would authorize an income tax deduction for farm owners who sell, lease, or participate in a crop share arrangement with a beginning farmer such terms are defined in the Act. The amount of the deduction shall be equal to either the portion of capital gains removed or received from the sale of farmland to a beginning farmer, not to exceed $500,000 in a tax year. Number two, the portion of cash rent income received from the lease or rental of farmland to a beginning farmer, not to exceed $25,000 in a tax year. Or number three, the portion of income received from the crop share arrangement with a beginning farmer, not to exceed $25,000 in a tax year. I know that we've got some experts related to the beginning farmer portion, including, I know Missouri Cattlemen and other ag groups are related here. And it looks like also on the boat docks, we have our expert state auditor and boat dock maker is here to testify, it looks like, on the boat dock provision as well. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Senator. Any questions for the bill sponsor? Senator Beck.
I'll just ask the expert when he comes up then, because I was just curious how this is worded, if it means all boat docks or just rental and lease, because that would be a big deal if this is sales tax on all boat docks. I mean, there's quite a few boat docks in Missouri.
Right. Well, and they'll be able to explain a little bit better. That's where the confusion is, because they're not all being taxed the same.
Yeah.
And so there's been some marina owners that have boat docks that are renting space slips in those boat docks, and even at their own marina, they're being taxed differently depending on how that boat dock was registered. So,
And I'm fine with something like that, but it sounds like it says all boat docks, and then it goes into lease or rental. So my concern is that, I was just looking at boat docks earlier today, and there's some that are, $225,000. Some of them are $500,000 boat docks.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that we're not saying they're sales exempt for all boat docks.
yes. Thank you.
All right. Who would like to testify in favor of Senate Bill 513? Please come forward. State your name, where you're from. The floor is yours for 3 seconds, or 3 minutes, excuse me.
What's that?
Well, 3 seconds was, we don't work that fast.
Scott Fitzpatrick. I am the state auditor. I'm more here today just like as a subject matter, somebody who has experience with the subject matter. Really what it comes down to is floating docks are treated by Department of Revenue for the purposes of sales tax as personal property as opposed to real property. So despite dock builders more like acting as contractors, they are, in the view of DOR, acting as a seller of tangible personal property. So when a dock builder sells a marina or a dock to a marina, the marina has the choice under the statute to either have the dock taxed at the time of the sale or buy it exempt from taxation and charge sales tax on the lease revenue of the dock. Okay, everybody pays. I mean, from my experience, people choose to pay tax and are not even aware that that option of exemption exists. That was a creation of an administrative hearing commission in 2014 on a decision on a dock deal. So the issue comes later when a marina owner sells the marina from themselves to the next owner of the marina. In the view of Department of Revenue, that triggers a new taxable transaction where the new buyer of the dock is required to remit use tax on that dock in order to maintain the ability for the marina to not charge sales tax on the slip rental revenue. And most people are unaware of that. I mean, I think everybody has been unaware of that. That's been a relatively new kind of interpretation of the department, and they've audited several marinas over the last couple of years, and it's become a bigger issue. And in like real property, so if you bought a storage building, when a contractor goes to build a storage building, the contractor is responsible for paying tax on materials when they buy them. And they build the building. The customer who's buying the storage building never even sees sales tax on any of the invoices. The owner of the storage building is not required to charge sales tax to the renters of the storage buildings because it's real property. So the whole issue comes down to if docks are personal or real property, or or whichever. DOR says they're personal property. They say that because they're personal property, when they change hands, it triggers this decision point for the new owner of either having to remit use tax on the dock or charge tax to their slip renters. Most marinas don't know that, and so they don't pay tax because they view it as something that's already been taxed once. And then when they get audited, the Department of Revenue says, you should have been collecting sales tax on these docks that existed when you bought this marina. And so you end up in a situation where somebody buys a marina and then maybe they built a dock or two docks after they buy it, and they paid sales tax to the builder on those docks, and they have part of their marina where they're supposed to be charging sales tax to people renting slips and the other part where they're not, and they may be the only marina on the entire lake that is charging sales tax at all on slip rentals to their customers, and it creates a lot of confusion for the customer and for the marina owner. As far as to your question about so from, this should have, it's not intended to have any effect on the taxability when a dock is sold. Their language was written by the Department of Revenue's general counsel or legal department. And so in terms of, I personally think that they could have, interpreted the law as it exists a little bit differently and avoided this whole situation. But, so I'm not going to be able to speak to how they view this language in terms of how they're going to enforce it. I can just tell you from my perspective, the goal is not for boat docks to not have tax charge on them when they're built. It's just to clarify that down the road, once they change hands multiple times, that once a dock has tax paid on it once, the new owner is not required to pay use tax every single time it transacts like it's a car or something. So, because if they fail to do that, because they didn't know, then they are forever required to charge sales tax on the slip rental income that they generate, which would put them at a competitive disadvantage with other people in the industry.
I appreciate it, but just the way it's written to me.
I understand what you're saying.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Is that,
I'm done.
you're
Yeah.
done. All right. Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Questions? Senator Beck, go for it.
And I appreciate that. It's just the way that it's written here and the way the summary states. It concerns me. Maybe we need to look at the language again of what it states here, because I think this could include all boat docks, whether you're a
Sure.
homeowner or whatever, So.
I would defer to the Department of Revenue because, again, I mean, they wrote it,
Yeah.
and they know what the issue is as well as I do, and
Sure.
their legal counsel wrote it. So if they say, hey, this is not supposed to be construed to mean an exemption of tax on all
Yeah.
docks, then I guess that's,
And I can work on that with the senator, too.
yeah.
We can talk about that, so I
But
appreciate it.
anyway, just wanted to provide the background. I do think it would be good to clarify this because it's causing problems for a lot of marinas. So thanks, Senator Hoskins, for filing the bill.
All right. Further testimony in favor of Senate Bill 513. Please come forward, state your name, where you're from, and the floor is yours.
All right. Good afternoon. Yeah, it's afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman and committee member. My name is Zach Wyatt. I'm the Legislative Director for the Department of Revenue, and I'm here today to support Senate Bill 513. This piece of legislation came from a couple of audits the department was conducting. For example, current law allows for a business owner to choose when building a dock if taxes will be paid on the building materials or collect taxes on the rental stream from the dock when it is built. As many of you could imagine, this causes confusion for not just the renters of the boat dock, but also the companies when one sells one dock to another. During these audits, the department, in its push to be more business-friendly, explained the law to the businesses, and any assessments that were done during the audits were done prospectively. So we did not go back on the businesses to collect any revenue that was lost. We also wanted to make it easier for businesses by changing this law. So in Senate Bill 513, allows for the exemptions of all boat docks and the rental or lease thereof. This will allow for businesses to now have a set standard when it comes to the taxation of the rental of boat docks and make it easier for everyone involved. And to Senator Beck's question in regards to the language, I will tell you I have questioned it multiple times and I've gotten reassurances multiple times from my general counsel on it. It has been multiple lawyers. It hasn't been the same lawyer coming back to me on it. So it kind of gives me a little bit of, I'll say, I feel much better when I have multiple lawyers tell me that it's just on the rental, the lease and rental stream of the dock itself. And with that, again, thank you for taking time for hearing this legislation, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further testimony in favor of Senate Bill 315, please come forward, or 513. Please come forward, state your name, where you're from, and the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, member of the committee. Liz Henderson on behalf of the Missouri Soybean Association. We want to go on record in support of this bill, specifically the beginning farmer piece of the legislation. We have no opinion on the boat docks. There's been a lot of work on this beginning farmer legislation to get it right. Over the past several months, we've worked with CPAs, other ag groups, members of both sides of the aisle. This bill was filed by both Senator Hoskins and Senator Rizzo, the minority leader over here. The goal of this legislation is to keep our production agriculture in the hands of folks that are willing to farm it. Right now, the average age of a farmer is over 60 years old, and most of these farmers will hold onto their land until they die, and then that land gets passed down to their children, who may or may not have the intention of farming it. Either way, they'll be hit with high taxes on the land, and in many cases, they'll sell it off to the highest bidder. In a time where we're prohibiting foreign ownership seems to be at the forefront of everyone's mind, so should preventing the massive sale of our productive farmland to folks like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. The bill would incentivize the seller to sell their land to a beginning farmer as laid out in the bill, or a qualified family member by providing an income tax subtraction on a percentage of the capital gains from that farm sale. We believe this tax incentive will help us bring a newer, younger generation of farmers back into the industry and keep our productive ag land in production for the years to come. We don't want to cater to the interests of out-of-state billionaires from New York or Los Angeles or any other outside interests. Instead, we want to continue to promote Missouri growth of Missouri-based producers. And with that, I would be happy to try and answer any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further testimony in support of Senate Bill 513. Please come forward, state your name, where you're from, and the floor is yours for up to 3 minutes.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ben Travis, Missouri Farm Bureau. Appreciate the senator bringing this bill forward. We'd like to go on record in support of this legislation, specifically the beginning farmer piece. You know, there's beginning farmer programs on the state and federal level incentivizing beginning farmers, from low-interest loan programs with the Farm Service Agency, Missouri Department of Agriculture, Treasurer's Office. There's even provisions within crop insurance and our HCS, but there's not a program like this out there to incentivize established, maybe retiring farmers to work with young beginning producers. And that's exactly what this bill does, is it addresses the crippling impact that capital gains can be. And so it is all about bringing the next generation back home to the farm. With that, I'd love to answer any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further testimony in support of Senate Bill 513. Please come forward, state your name, where you're from, and the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jacob Knabel with the Missouri Corn Growers Association. We would like to go on the record in support of Senate Bill 513. I'd like to thank the bill sponsor for bringing this forward. This is a topic that has truly been exciting as we go across the state, meeting with our members at our winter meetings, talking to them about what policy we've been working on, and they're excited to hear that we're doing something to address the needs to get the next generation of agriculturalists involved with farming. There are many obstacles for beginning farmers to overcome when they start producing in agriculture, including high input costs, expensive equipment investments, and then even limited land availability. As mentioned, with the average age of the farmer continuing to increase, it is important we take steps now to help reduce these obstacles. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further testimony in support of Senate Bill 513. Please come forward, state your name, where you're from. The floor is yours for up to 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mike Deering, representing the Missouri Cattlemen's Association. Like was already mentioned, I Don't know much about the boat dock side, but I mean, it makes sense. A boat dock, once a dock, always a dock, I guess. So that makes sense. But on the beginning farmer piece, so we've worked with the senator here since 2015 when he was in the House. We worked on similar legislation, which obviously did not pass, and so here we are again, working on trying to establish opportunities for the next generation. As was already mentioned, the average age of a farmer is 58. Less than 5% are 35 years old or younger. I'm often asked what the biggest threat to Missouri agriculture is, or U.S. agriculture, and you could talk about overregulation, you can talk about taxes, you can talk about a whole host of things. But really, it's the aging farmer. If we do not repopulate the land with the next generation, I cannot even begin to describe the woes that we will face. As consumers and as producers, we talk a lot about the foreign ownership of farmland, but we will be talking about importing food if we do not keep land in production agriculture with the next generation of farm and ranch families. With that, I'll take any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Further testimony in support of Senate Bill 513. Testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 513. Testimony for informational purposes only on Senate Bill 513. Seeing none. Senator, would you like to make any closing comments? No? Do you want me to make a motion to adjourn? I would make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
We are adjourned.